Dr. Sipho Sithole, welcome to Under the Skin.
Thank you very much, John. I feel honored for this invitation.
Sipho, you've made award-winning music, you've worked in big corporations, you have worked in state-owned enterprises, but I want to start with you, 12 years old, living in Umlazi, you working in gardens to pay for your schooling, your mom's a domestic worker. What was happening to the 12-year-old Sipho Sithole in those days?
You know, at that age, you don't actually see anything wrong because you just see everything in the moment because you have nothing to gauge against. You think that is the life that you are supposed to be living. At the age of 12, I had just returned from the village. I had a short stint in the village.
Msinga, your home.
Msinga, yes. Mm-hmm. And I had just come back when I was 11. I had been home, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years then in the village. So at that time, my father had just passed away. And the world has just sort of shut in front of my eyes. My father was a traditional man, very strong character, but he was a driver at the biggest Durban butcher shop. And so we used to have meat in the house. There was no shortage of meat.
And presumably friends with it.
And friends and all this.
Yes.
So it was really nice. So when suddenly my father passed away, I realized that we had nothing. We had nothing. And the first thing that one would do is what every kid was doing, which was being a garden boy in the white suburbs. So then I thought it was a lifestyle, actually. It's so fun because when my father passed away, because I was such a kid, I was excited about 2 things. Oh, I'm going to be a garden boy. I'm going to go to the bioscope, you know, because he couldn't do anything. When my father was alive, when you saw him coming from work, you actually started asking yourself, what did I do wrong today?
And what did you do wrong?
You know? And I was always a good kid.
Okay.
I come from a family of, we were 7 of us. But for some reason, I never got in the wrong side of my father. So, but what then happened is we all just became garden boys. I was a garden boy going to Yellowwood Park.
From Umlazi?
Umlazi, yeah. We used to swim. We used to walk from Umlazi Township. There's a river, Umlazi River. If there had been heavy rains, we used to swim. And then we would then walk up through Chatsworth, which is the biggest Indian township in Africa, cross the railway line. I think there was a station there called Heavenside, straight into Yellowwood Park. Then we look for work. But back then, looking for a job was, you needed to get a letter from your school that Sipho Sithole is a learner at Manzolo and the Higher Primary School. During weekends, he looks for a job, or during school holidays, he's going to be looking for a job. So you had to carry this letter in your pocket, because if you were found in the white suburbs, you were a vagrant, and then you got arrested. Now, let alone that you couldn't explain why you are there, because I couldn't speak English.
So here's a 12-year-old boy. Was that the beginning of what seems to have been in your life a relentless drive for education? Because you've done your BSc, you've done your MSc, you've studied in London, you've studied in the United States, you've recently done a PhD at Wits University. Were you driven by curiosity, ambition, or perhaps a little bit of fear as well?
For me, the school thing was something very interesting because I only started school when I was 11. And when I went to school, I could already read a standard 1 book. And actually, I'm convinced now that I had memorized it. I don't think I could read, but I was reading from chapter to chapter. And I just wanted to be at school. But later on in life, I realized that because we were very poor after my father, we were very poor. I realized that the only way that I could stop the cycle of poverty was for me to go to school and to go as much as I could. From being a garden boy, I used to save money. My highest job as a garden boy was 120 a day. Mm-hmm. My first job was 50 cents, but I used to save that until end of the year. Then I will go to the Indian shops, and then I will buy underwear in bulk, vest, socks. Then I'll go to Cleveland's hostels where they are busy killing people now. Then I will sell that and then make profit and then buy my school uniform, then go to school. But later on, when I was in standard 6 or Form 1 then, I was working at a local supermarket, so I saved money to go to boarding school. I took myself to Adams College, one of the prestigious institutions in this country. where Luthuli, Buthelezi, Kaunda, Robert Mugabe went to. So I saved enough money to go into standard 9, which is Form 4.
So in this upbringing, what part does music play? Is it in the background? Is it already taking shape in your head? Are the songs already knocking on your skull and saying, let us in?
Now, back on the story of my dad, because my father worked at the butcher shop, there was always meat in the house. So on weekends, he used to have all these friends.
Yes.
Drinking beer or whatever. And then he used to make me sing. So he would say, because I was his favorite, I was right in the middle of 7 kids. 3 this side, 3 this side, me in the middle. So he would call me to come and sing for his friends. And then I had this thing of music, tradition, Zulu dance, call and response. But my real formation when it came to music was when I eventually went abroad.
So let's just stay with your dad for the moment. Did he choose you to sing because you had a especially good voice? And did he pick the songs? How did it work?
I'm not sure how he picked me. He picked up on me out of all the kids. But I even know the song that he used to get me to sing.
And let's hear it. What was it?
It used to go like, Nangu Kamchagel, Nansi Mbulebelete, Zisham, Heamisha Isazelo Mtababa, Hukampa, Nangu Kamchagel. Then it goes to clapping, and then it goes to dancing, and then that's how I would sing. Then otherwise he would also ask me to play cards with his friends, because he said I could beat any of his friends. So he used to play casino. He taught me casino.
Yes.
And all of that. I think I was very special to him.
It's a big loss at a young age, but you've said, Sipho, before that you felt blessed by having dual roots, that you had a township life in Umlazi, but you had a place that you still call home in Msinga. How do you think that's shaped your music and your sense of what music should do?
When you are at home, especially in December, there's always a ceremony. There's always a ritual. They've slaughtered a cow. And when the young men or older men in the village come and now celebrate, and they are coming from wherever, they come in a song. So these songs, they sit in your head. The songs that we sang when we were herding cattle, the melodies, all of that thing stayed in my head. And that is how I think this music of fusing Afro trad, ethno trad with modern music came from.
I want to ask you, is there, in addition to just drawing on the library of your life, the sounds that have stayed with your being as you've described, is there some almost political intention in the way that you've consciously looked to bring the rural sounds into more urban music forms as a way of almost saying, as Black South Africans, we need to recognize the whole of who we are?
I guess it is this of constantly fighting cultural imperialism and fighting for a place of our own in the space of humanity. Because I believe that the only way you can respect me, John, is if you see me as believing in myself.
Yes.
And if I'm proud of who I am, I'm proud of being African, I'm proud of being Zulu, without being cultural ethnocentric, because that's also very important, because you don't want to use your culture to look down on other people. But the fact that you can stand tall and beautiful amongst other races and say, here I am as well, just add me to the number. And that you can do in any form, whether it's through creative arts. So I have chosen music to use that. And I think I'm probably the only person who's been consistent in making sure that what we write about and what we sing about talks about that narrative, about the fusion of old and new, and finding that space where people begin to appreciate that we are diverse, but also we are very equally important.